The awe of the experience is in every moment, which is also considered the now or the gift or the present. The present is the gift.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was like when you first would open up presents? Did you get excited?
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. Or did you just go, oh, it's just another gift? Just go, so I'm gonna like put it in there that 2020 was a gift, was the awe of the experience. And did you see the awe of the experience? And I'm gonna start with Beloved. How did you interpret the experience in the awe of what went down 2020, 2021?
The way I experienced it and the way I still like to talk about it is we went into a chrysalis, and we had an opportunity to see what our transformation was going to be. Just the way a caterpillar goes into the chrysalis. Well, here we had 2 years to really, as we isolated, so many of us did. I'm in the States, we isolated, right?
Yeah.
And, and we had that opportunity to really see what was important in our lives. What do we want to take forward? What do we want to release? And I like to say we had the opportunity to decide what kind of butterfly we wanted to be. I know I actually was with my mom because
Mm-hmm.
I had just come back from Ecuador and I stopped to visit my mother. And that's when we were shut down. So I furloughed our housekeeper. I said, stay home. It's probably a couple of weeks. I'll stay with mom. Not a big deal. 2 years later. And for me, my mother lives on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking the beach every day. I slept on the sofa because I turned my room into my meditation room. I set my bowls up and I did something almost every day live called FYI for your inspiration. And I did a meditation,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wrote another book while I was there. And I just kept getting that this is really an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an opportunity to come forth in a new way. And I really believed that we were going to come forth as a community, as a global family, being concerned for one another, taking care of one another, not putting ourselves first. I thought the whole economic thing would change. And I was I was just so sure, that this is an opportunity. This is not a bad thing. This is an opportunity if we can see it that way and use it that way. And I got to spend that time with my mom and we had tablets, we had a virtual world. That part. I mean, I lost all my live events and
Right.
all of that, but all of the virtual things. I had friends and we would call each other and say, okay, how about Tuesday at 3? And we would block off an hour or two and make a pot of tea and have a tea party, on Zoom. There were all these opportunities if we allowed ourselves to be in that space. I renovated my whole home without ever walking into a store to buy one thing. And I was a designer for years. I couldn't touch, I couldn't feel. It was like, oh my God, I'm ordering all these things. I know they'll work out. I know it'll be perfect. It was such a creative time, and then to come back out and see it. Wow, wait, this isn't what I envisioned.
So,
Where are all the other butterflies?
Well, see, and I was just saying earlier that I felt like a lot of the people that didn't step into the chrysalis and get contained. That's
Yes.
when they were exercising their butterflying. They
Yeah.
were like, hold on, right?
Yeah.
Freedom is freedom. And who are you to tell me what I'm supposed to do, right? So it's, for me, it was the flip side of the experience of
Mhm.
very much was a time to go within, but was to go within to discover what is your truth. And one of the things I noticed that a lot of people that had felt over the course of their life, let's say that they were the sheep or the odd man out or the troublemaker, they all found each other. And they were like, oh my gosh, there's somebody else that thinks the government shouldn't be in my life, right?
Yeah.
That there's something wrong with us believing everything they're saying when we never believed anything they said before. And so it was very interesting to see this sort of community. And I know I would come because I was like you, I was walking the beach, but I was on Prince Edward Island, and there
Yeah.
was nothing going on in Prince Edward Island. Like, we didn't even have anyone in the hospital. So we only had the mysterious cases popping up. So it was like, I this is the first time that I turned on the TV like in like 20 years, really, and was watching and going, people are believing like what they're saying on this, like without any discernment, because it's just, to me, it was just fear after fear after fear after
Mm.
fear. It wasn't anything about going within, finding yourself, you're healthy, everything's good, just go with the flow, discover your inner beauty. Nothing like that, right?
Yeah.
um so it it was a completely different experience for me to see how, where nothing was going on, we were being treated as if we were Toronto or New York City or Florida, right? Where you are. Like, it's like we got to clamp down.
Yeah.
And and then you just watched how different people got their fears, they just overcame them. And I met one little, she's so cute. She was a lovely little librarian. And then, so tiny little town. And she says to me one day, she goes, my life hasn't changed at all during this. She said, I live 5 minutes away. I work part time here. My cottage is like 10 minutes over there on the beach.
Yeah.
And the store I shop at is right there. And she goes, every once in a while, I'd cross the bridge, which I can't do, and go to Moncton, and go some shopping, but that's it. She goes, so my physical life hasn't changed at all. But my mental life, she says, I'm so stressed now because it doesn't matter what I do, social media, the news, or anything. Everybody's just talking about fear, 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 fear. And so that aspect for me was just this other awakening part, right? Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
kept saying, you need to have everybody have a different experience, because those that are like, I bet people that didn't know they were even stressed,
Yeah.
right, from Toronto, they didn't even know they were stressed. I'd have conversations, they go, I didn't even know I was stressed until I stopped having to go into work, and I started to discover, or I started to meet my wife across the kitchen table, right? And I didn't, we had been going like this for so long. So there were so many beautiful things that happened. And when I was in Mexico just this past March,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of Americans there, and I could even sense which side of the line they were on. And I said, I'm Canadian, and so just curious, um, what's the solution for your country? And they're like, solution? What do you mean the solution? Those people are just idiots. And the other one being, those people are just idiots. And I'm like, you're both saying the same thing about the other person. When are you going to find unity?
Yeah.
When are you going to have a solution? Like, how long is this going to go on for? Right? Because
Yes.
for me, that was interesting. So I believe I heard you're now that you're looking for a unification and a solution. I think I heard it off that guy named Biden and his lips. We need to be, So the
I don't know what
experience,
it's going to take.
yep, it's interesting, right? How experience
Isn't
can
it?
affect us.
Yeah. It it's really interesting. And for me, the that whole period of time, I experienced it differently because I was with my mother, who is 96. She's 99 now. So my whole thing was keeping her safe, right? How
Right,
do I keep her safe? And I did lose my big sis early on in New York.
right.
She was like one of the very first, New York um, deaths. She's
Casualty.
really my cousin, but we've
Right,
always been sisters. And my um, my older daughter is in the hospital business in Florida, so she had the real stats,
right.
right? So, um, and then my younger daughter in medicine up here. So it was really interesting. But there was this complexus of freedom, and don't tell me
Yeah,
that. No, I mean, don't tell me I have to do this. Don't tell me I have to do that.
right.
No, no. And that was a really big deal. But the thing is, now that we're out, I don't understand when I see groups telling other groups what they have to do or what they can't do.
Right.
You can't read this book. I'm sorry, this book can't be there.
Okay, so what book are you referring to now?
Oh, I, in the US, there are many books being banned. I don't know if you're aware of this, out of school, like children's books that can no longer be in the schools because
Like
some people have decided that they are not appropriate.
like
And when you
Dr.
look,
Seuss or something?
oh yeah, a lot of Dr. Seuss. I mean, I
Really?
do you want me to?
Yes.
I'll
We're
send you
we're
the
on
list.
a
Let
freedom.
me tell
We're on
you.
a conversation. We're having virtual tea. Virtual.
Oh, that's why we're having virtual tea. I know. No, there's a whole list of books that are not allowed in the school system anymore, especially in Florida, because some parents. Oh, so explain to me how. I mean, I don't. I I'm glad that it's happening because it's awakening some people to say, wait a second,
Right.
wait. If we have a freedom issue, then who's making those
Decisions.
decisions?
Yes. Well,
Right?
and that's a very like to me, right? So Maria and Joe, you might not know this about Beloved, but she's definitely from another planet. And
Yes.
and she's and one of her fun things to do when Ariel likes to come in, she channels Archangel Ariel.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the fact of like life is beyond this experience anyways, we're having this experience in on this realm, and then we're watching the breakdown of so many traditional structures that were they deliberate lies all along, to keep us in a box, or were they oh, we just won't tell you the truth, like it's a little white lie like the parents would do about things in the house. I mean, I think like things are so deep on so many levels that I feel like everybody's having their own individual experience. One of the things that I have said that I thought 2020 represented was on a global way was the maternal and the paternal.
Mm,
So, the healthcare was the maternal side and the paternal was the justice side, right? And
well said.
so if you never had dealt with any of your skeletons in the closet, so to speak, you know, you were you you were confused about what was being told, right? And then you're like it's all getting muddled of how you're going to react. If you've done some inner work or you've looked at things previously, I think then you could make your own choices. And there were lots of people that felt like their livelihoods were being stepped on, but they still took the opportunity to stay home. Right.
Yeah.
You, Maria and Joe, you can jump in any moment now, right? Like, what was your experience? Who wants to go first?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I found that I could see the North Star, I could see the Little Dipper, the Big Dipper, and in Toronto. And it was awesome. And it like the peace was palpable. And the beautiful reaching out among the neighbors. When we were all forced to stay home, don't go out, you're allowed for a health walk, going to a playground is forbidden, etc. And so I didn't go out. I didn't need to go out, but a neighbor asked, "I'm going to the store. What would you like me to pick up?" I asked, "I've run out of fresh things." So I asked for fresh apples. Then I said, okay, I'm venturing out, and I asked my neighbors what they'd like me to pick up for them. The collaboration, the caring for each other was amazing. The checking in on each other, just totally amazing. And the other thing that was empowering is that my childhood was spent under communism. Oh, I know all about this. I know all about this. Rule number one: do if you don't want to be in jail, or as a child, if you don't want your parents in jail, keep your mouth shut.
Mm.
Right? So, okay, don't like some people don't have that experience, and they're okay with provoking. And if you have that experience, and at age 4, I was responsible for helping my parents keep their job by keeping my mouth shut. Like, okay, I know how to do this.
So, do you want to reveal? Is it still a country that exists, or has it been
It's
amalgamated?
Hungary. It was Hungary under
Yeah,
the
that's what I
Soviet,
think.
under Soviet. And then what else? During 2020, Zoom came in. I learned how to Zoom, and touch was forbidden. So you can touch when you meet your friends on the street, your neighbors. You got to be everybody. You have to. You do not want to attract unfriendly attention. Okay, you don't want to be the one who's made an example of. So stay on the other side of the street, which is fine. You just raise your voice a little bit, and you have a great friendly, and you can the heart energy travels. You don't have to be within interest. You cannot stop the heart energy. So that was lovely. And then, but touch is forbidden. And so many miss the touch. They have not lived under communism. They don't have the survival skills. They don't know how to soothe themselves. So I cut out a whole bunch of angels from craft felt, and I used two colors, and I began to embroider them together. So my touch is in them. By the time I finish embroidering, my touch is in it. And then they went out to well over 50 went out. So here is the touch. Okay, you cannot stop touch. The good you and I we all know that object carries the touch. So anyway,
What
that
about because you're a minister, is that correct?
yeah.
So, what happened there with your congregation?
Well, I began to write a sermon like message every single day, 7 days a week, for the whole year and most the next year, until they said, "Oh, it's going to be. Let's just do it twice a week now." And I began with, I'm going to put it into Christian terminology because that's what I have to do.
Yeah,
Okay, for them.
yeah.
I said, I began with basic message was, we know how to do this. We are the emergency lighting system of the Christ light. We are the emergency lighting system of the Christ light. We know how to do this. we can turn up the light inside.
Right.
That was the basic message. And sometimes I was doing it with example. When your emotions run high, don't make decisions because your decision making capacity shuts down. And I said, well, I got upset, so I didn't make any decisions. I paused because I didn't want to make the wrong decision. And so I also use my personal example, not always having it together. Nobody's going to believe that anyway. And besides, you cannot lead. You have to meet where they're at. If they're in despair, I can be a step ahead, but I cannot be hip hip hooray happy because if you think about it, Mother Teresa is a too difficult example to follow. But your next door neighbor who has saintly qualities, but you also know their weaknesses and struggles, that is a good example to follow, not too much beyond your capacity. And then to introduce touch, uh, an artist developed a painting like a Christmas flame, a candle flame, and it became a mosaic. So she delivered small squares, 2 inches, 4 inches by 4 inches, to something like 18 different people with colors, with paints and brushes, and said, "You're blue. Make a blue something with blue. You're going to be this part of the candle. You're of the scene, and
Right.
a symbol of Christmas love into it." So a 3-year-old. You can see the 3-year-old scribbling, and you can see the 90-year-old's exquisite fine pen work. And then it was all put together into a huge painting because when you paint, you're touching. Okay, the resonance is there.
Right.
And you're focusing on your feelings of love, not your worry thoughts. That's the other of your worry thoughts. And that was photographed, turned into a Christmas card, and one of those hand embroidered angels was tugged in, and it went out, very very wide distribution. So we delivered type directly.
Oh,
Anyways,
that's so beautiful.
That's really beautiful.
Isn't it? See?
and then I can tell you even more since you've asked me, not my idea, but the community rallied and they decided that spiritual care is everybody's responsibility. I do the really heavy stuff. I did some extremely heavy stuff. But when a 3-year-old scribbles a drawing and passes it on, that's spiritual care. People don't recognize it. And so somebody said, if somebody comes to mind, pick up the phone and call. It's so good to hear. So everybody got involved in spiritual care and they recognized that. And they were checking in. Does everybody, and some turned to me, does everybody have money to pay that? Because a lot of people lost their income. Does everybody have utilities and groceries, or they were ready to make a donation anonymously to help anybody out? It was remarkable. And there was a lot of lost income, a serious loss of income.
Sure. I think there was like for small business owners, it was huge, and then yeah, it was like that part was the part that was kind of beyond my comprehension.
Oh yeah, like horrendous for parents, and we're not even getting into the mental health challenges, which skyrocketed. And then they rallied, and there's space around the church. Joanne has seen it. Somebody went and got a lot of wood and constructed 6 raised vegetable beds. And they call that space the commons. The old concept of the commons.
Yeah.
Everybody shares in the responsibility and everybody shares in the benefit, including neighbors and strangers. So they planted that, and they developed their own schedule of who looks after it what day. They put in a labyrinth. They put in beehives. So now we had our own honey. And what else? Maple syrup. They tapped the trees, boiled down the sap. We have 13 trees that were tapped. So, and anyway, so they did remarkable things. We planted trees. I suggest the Advent was coming. So we instituted uh, visiting circles. People could meet outside, not always, even that was forbidden at times. When it was permitted, it was limited to 5 people or maximum 10 people distanced. So everybody bought a lawn chair and we met outside. In the winter, it was around a fireball. And somebody with a good sense of humor brought a tape measure just to measure that you're indeed 6 feet. Okay, remember, you're in public. Okay, you don't want the wrong kind of attention because you don't want to be the one who gets who. Besides, you cannot provoke people and argue about narrative, right? And so that was great. And then Advent was coming. We were already doing the Christmas painting, but with the visiting circles, and they like to do again more touch. So I suggested, what if we planted a white pine? What's the significance of white pine? You can touch it. It doesn't prick you,
Ah.
right? So in the fall, we planted a white pine, and then came Advent. Uh, I brought Advent symbols, more touch. And whoever was at the visiting circle each week, we put Advent symbols outdoors, Advent symbols on the white pine. So the white pine, because it allows for touch. And it's we all know, it's a very, very healing frequency. Maple trees have maples have healing frequency. And the
Yep.
place is unsprayed, it's filled with clover, it's filled with wild strawberries, which bloom flush on the ground, but because the lawnmower goes over them, they never go to fruit. But they bloom. So chickweed, so some very friendly plants. Plantain, some very, very friendly plants. Anyway, so how is that for a summary?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Isn't it? It's
So beautiful.
totally. And this is for me why we have these conversations, because when each of us share our own personal experiences, right, we recognize, wow, that's a completely different experience than I've had. And it's not a your experience was right and mine was wrong, right? It's like we all had different experiences. We're all meant to have different experiences. Like, it's very difficult for people to get when they're in the major cities, how like there was just nothing happening in PI, right? Because their thought process is, well, everything was going on. I'm like, no, nothing was going on. Like, nothing was going on.
For me,
We
it
had
was
121 people in the hospital the year before die of the flu, and we got 0 in the hospital this year, right? Like, nothing is happening. So I was the hugger. And the first started, I was sitting at the boardwalk one day, and a lovely little lady came walking by, and I could just feel like I just felt like she really wanted a hug, right? And I said hi, and she stopped and she said hi, and I was like, "Would you like a hug?" And she's like, "Oh, we can't. We're not allowed." And I said, "Well, I'm okay giving you a hug if you're okay receiving a hug." And she goes, "Okay." And she looked that way, and she looked that way, just like Marissa's like, calm you, right? Look that way, I looked that way. And she ran over and grabbed me and hugged me so tight. And then she said, "Thank you." And then off she went, right? And I thought, okay, that's my thing now. So wherever I would go, I would offer hugs, and it was amazing how many people would take them, right? And
Yeah.
I was in Tim Hortons which is our Canadian version of Starbucks,
Yeah.
the working man's coffee. Did you go when you were up here? No, just okay. So now you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there was a little man, little, I'd say he's Italian man. He had his walker. And I said to him, I said, would you like a hug? And he goes, oh, yeah. And he was like, and he starts to hug me, and his hands just start to slide down my back. And I just grab his hand. I'm like, it's a hug, not a feel. But I thought this man is just, who knows when the last time he was hugged, right? Just starved for, oh. And then it took me a while to, after a while, because I was offering to hugs to men too. I wasn't trying to be discriminatory. But then one of my friends said to me, they go, you do know you have soft breasts. And I was like, what? Yeah, like people always like, what? And they go, they can feel that when you're hugging them. Guys feel that. I was like, oh, I thought it was just like a lovely heart to heart connection, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, so then that started to jade my perception of, when I would go, I'd be like, just check in before I offer, right? Okay, this one feels genuine, but yeah. So completely different. In different parts of the world, it was different. And Joanne, you were in a different part of Toronto, right? You were north of Toronto at that point. And what was it like for you?
I'm the type of person that if you tell me I can't do something, you're gonna make sure I'm gonna go do it. And if they told me I couldn't go out and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, and I'm a driver. I love driving. So I went and signed up for Grocery Gateway or whatever the heck it was called. And I was on the front line delivering groceries because I thought, what am I going to do? You need a reason. Or what? Camera's this way. A reason to go out. You have to have a reason if you're going to the grocery store, the doctor's, wherever you're going. So I had this little green card and I could pull it out anytime. I never asked. It was never asked for it, but that was my thing. And it's like, it was partly fear too, because if I felt really trapped, if I couldn't get in my car and drive somewhere. And so I got that job and I was on the front line and people, you got so many different experiences delivering the groceries. Some of them would grab it from your hand and say, thank you. Most of them would stay behind the door with their mask on, with the door closed, and then open up the curtains and see if you're there. And then you had to take a picture of it on the porch to make sure, to show that it was delivered. I never had any troubles with the people, but sometimes it would come out and they'd leave a little Ziploc bag with $20 in it or $5 change or whatever. Or sometimes they'd like throw it at you so they didn't touch you. And so it had so many different experiences that way. But I felt good about being able to help, but I also felt that I wasn't trapped and being stuck at home. If it who knows, it could have went on for years and years, and I would have went crazy if I couldn't get in my car and drive whenever I wanted to. Because lots of times, even here, I'm 2.5 minutes walk to the lake, but I'll drive all the way around to the other side of the lake where the port is, where the boats are, and the boardwalk is, because I want to walk along the water, not just to the water and it's done. The walk is over, right? So I had both experiences. The chrysalis one I did go within, because I was in Aruba, and when I came back, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and so I went up into my office/loft and spent most of the 2 weeks up there. And I should actually try and find. I did a lot of journaling, a lot of deep meditation, and it was just like elongated my vacation basically by an extra 2 weeks, because I couldn't do anything, couldn't make any food, I couldn't go in the kitchen, I couldn't do anything, and it was like, okay, this is great. So I did the chrysalis, but then I also got, once that part was over, then I also got out running around in the world. So it was pretty great. Yeah, the blessings were great. And the third thing that I did community-wise is Maria was part of our group. We have 4 of us that started off meeting once a year. Started off with the Ultra Mind meditation. Oh, we lost Jacqueline. Uh-oh. Oh, we're still live, so she can watch.
Yeah, we're live.
She can watch she can watch the recording.
She'll be back.
Yeah. So we started meditating once a day, and then I don't know when it switched into twice a day, but the meditation group that we were taking, it was Silva meditation, the Silva method. They suggested, and Mind Valley was running it at the time, the Mind Valley program, and he was saying once a day, if you meditate, it's good for you, and twice a day, it's really good for you, and the best for you is 3 times a day. So somehow or other, we morphed into once a day. She's back. Then we started some point or other, and I don't know if we have notes or when we can figure out with our emails or what. We started into twice a day. This is our meditation group I'm talking about. So that's sort of the third part of my experience. And then we started meditating actually 3 times a day. So it was quite the experience of having someone to talk to 24 hours a day, 3 times a day, knew someone was there, knew we could count on each other. We didn't do a lot of talking. It was mostly 4 o'clock was more like a learning thing. We would do a course. So we plowed through probably 15 courses over the last couple of years. We plowed through all kinds of self-empowerment courses, yoga, qigong, and I got a 10x fitness designation. So then I took the girls through a home workout and taught them how to do that. And I think Michelle said it's been a year and a half now. She's been doing twice a week, and she's probably surpassed me as far as the weights that she can do, which is really impressive. It was really fun this week, actually. She was in at a convention in Atlanta, and she'd never done any of the workouts that we have at the gym. So we actually did a Zoom because we're so used to them now. We did a Zoom, and I actually took her through her gym workout by Zoom.
Cool.
And she
That's
ecstatic.
really cool.
Just, how do I do this? What do I do? What am I doing? Because now she got to do 6 different exercises or 5 different exercises than the ones we normally do, but on a machine now. So yeah, I feel really blessed. The first beginning of it, I got a little bit freaked out when my daughter was going to jump into a car and going on a date with a guy that she barely knew. And I got really upset with her. And then she just looked at me so full of wisdom and said, "Mom, this isn't all real. It's just fake. And everything is fine." And just like that, I flipped into, oh my God, how did I not see this? I didn't vaccinate my kids, and I stopped vaccinating them. And it was just a carry on of you're staying into the healthy zone and not doing the doctor crap. And I just snapped out of it like in mere seconds. And yeah, it was blessing after blessing after blessing. And I could say, other than, my life didn't really change that much either, because I get faced with a problem, like not being able to drive, and I go find a solution. So I got to do my driving. I got to be on the front line. I got to help people with their health. I got to teach my skills and my tools with my workouts, and be with my girls 3 times a day, and the kids. I could see them whenever I want. No one was following pretty much most of that garbage. So, yeah.
May I add something?
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating to hear. It's fascinating to hear what each of you is sharing, because I'm in a leadership position. That was foremost. How do I stay safe? Number one, including not getting into trouble. Like safe, I'm less like health wise. I know how to be safe, but I'm not seeking trouble. But how do I lead? And what was very clear is that not I don't take sides as a leader. I embrace the whole. I embrace the whole. The whole includes different angles. And you have to embrace the whole.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
you started with about can people unite? That's what you started with.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like, for me, some of the things when you talk about, I didn't have a community in the sense where you had a leadership role, but I truly felt from where I was in the world of saying health is natural, health is a given. For me, I've been saying that for years. So that health is like, I'm here in the forest. The trees just grow, things just grow.
Mm.
Like, you can't stop it from growing. For me, I'm going to die when it's my time. Like, and I'm not going to die. I'm just going to transition into some other experience, right? But that's my belief. I think a lot of people, when they just focus on this one experience and they don't have a belief of afterlife or multidimensionality or anything like that, that that would be extra hard on them, because it would be a serious, I get sick, I die, I'm done. Like, story's over. Where I just felt like this is a part of the experience. So one of the things I was guided to do was to interview some people, and there were a few that stick out for me that I did at the time. One was a woman who was like one of Joanne's grocery individuals that was peeking through the blinds, and she said she had been a cancer survivor. Okay.
Mhm.
And so they came out with this. She was petrified. She was petrified. This is it. She was going to die. Her immune system's weak. Done. So her daughter would bring her the groceries. And again, this is on Prince Edward Island, where nothing's really happening, right?
Right.
But she was still immersed in this fear that her daughter would drop the groceries, and she said she would wait about a half hour before her daughter was gone, so they had aired and someone, and literally she came and she still scrubbed every container, everything that she brought in the house. Like, she washed and she washed, and she was petrified. And she said, and that went on for, I think, about 6 weeks. And then she just had this snap out of it, right? Like, it's like, oh my gosh, is this how I'm going to live the rest of my life? Right? If I die tomorrow, is this how I want to live my life? Right? And I think that's where some of the people were just like, no. And so I met her at one of the rallies, so to speak, of saying, hey, there's more going on than meets the eye here. And I wasn't about, like you. Didn't have sides. I was the hugger girl. I would just have free hugs, free hugs. And I'd ask everybody, do you want more love? Do you want more hugs? And because to me, that's what it was about. It was about, we need to open our hearts and love each other and stop having an attachment to a story that could be true or not true, right?
Yeah.
It's just as individual as anything else that goes on. Um, and for me, it's a bit of an eye opener, because I'd already had the experience of feeling that health was natural. So I was like, well, why aren't we talking about, like, why aren't we talking about nutrition? Why aren't we talking about aromatherapy? Why aren't we talking about getting out and walking the beach? Like, we can walk to the beach, but are we really talking about these things on the news? Or are we only, we might be talking about them in our own little communities, but top down, they weren't talking about it.
Mm.
And so that was it. So I had this feeling that, well, um, I need to go talk to the police in our island, right? I needed to go tell them, like, you're about to, like, this scientist says you bring in the vaccine, it's a good vaccine, but it's the wrong time. It's going to create variants, and we're going to have issues in PI soon. Like, you need to protect us. And that was when I started to notice they got that I had a whole other different vibe on health. They could see, I said, if I was the health minister, this is what I'd be saying. And they're like, oh, that's totally different. Right. And I said, yeah, so that's why I know there's something else going on. Right. I don't know what, but something else going on. And our house doesn't have to burn down just because everybody else's is, right? That was my mentality. And so they were very interested, and they sent me off to the RCMP, et cetera, et cetera. But then when I went to follow up, it was like, whoop, time out, don't talk to her anymore. So then I got to start to see, as you were talking about, who's telling us what to do, right? Who's in charge of what books in education? Who is, all these, who is the who? And that was, for me, start to look at who is the who and what are the words on the papers that we actually think we are, and the identification of who am I really? Am I really actually operating like a sovereign being here, having this experience, wanting to spread love and joy, and am I surrounded by that, or am I surrounded by people that are starting to open up like I was at one point, right? Like, can I have that compassion that the world is just starting to blossom, and in the process of blossoming, it just looks very chaotic, right? And so it was different, and then it's just led me to realize that the words on the paper are very similar to how I coach people about the programs in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I go, well, I don't say I'm a resident that lives in a dwelling yet, and so that was very educational for me, and it brought up a lot of things, and I think it brought up for me this patriarchal, my coming to peace with the patriarchal system is in place because the patriarchal system is in place. It's not a wrong, it's not a right, it just is, and my experience of it is the only thing that I need to clear and work on. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It
To
does.
me, it does.
Yeah. I have the whole patriarch matriarch thing
Mm-hmm.
going on, and I want to stay neutral with that and just experience it all. I know it's part of the outer world, but I worked so hard for so many years, right? For women's rights and for our autonomy with our bodies and all of that I don't have a huge emotional charge, but when I see things being dismantled, it's very difficult for me to stay in that neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I get that I'm in judgment here. It's not that I'm judging necessarily on the other side. It's just that I do have an attachment to freedoms over my body and my granddaughter's bodies, my grandson's bodies, and all of the men's bodies too, but they're not the ones that are at issue, right? They're not even in the conversation. So
And
as
just so people are clear, if they're going, what? Because weren't you just talking about she's talking about Roe versus Wade got overturned in the States. Okay.
in the States, and
That's,
it's a big issue now politically, and it's a big dividing point in my country.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's like, wait a second, didn't we already do this? Did we already took care of this? You know, so it's like the unity from community, and there's more division being created. And so it's just an interesting thing. And when I realized there are some places that's very difficult for me to hold
Mhm.
that balance, and to hold that, where people say hands off.
Right.
I want to hold hands off. Well, for me, I want to hold hearts on, right?
Oh, what a lovely expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you go back to this and have the hearts pop out.
Oh, yeah. I like to do hearts on
Yeah, hearts on. There you go. See?
rather than hands off.
Right. Yeah.
And so the way I experience it is finding myself really stepping in and just keeping my heart open when there are things my mouth would like to be saying that are not very heartfelt, but they are things that need to be said. So there's that balance there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, part of being here is using my voice
Mhm.
to make a difference. And using my voice, it doesn't mean that everyone has to agree with me, but I can't keep silent on some things, you know.
Well, see,
It's
for
an
me,
interesting
just
place.
right, like for me, the abortion issue in the States is is it's the same other side of the coin as the other people thought, hey, my body, my choice, I'm not taking the vaccine, right? And
Yes.
and so there were two, like for me, like I'm always looking at different aspects. So like I was like, well, if you believe you have the right to have an abortion, why wouldn't you believe you have the right to have a vaccine or not, right? And and so that baffled me that the people that believed in abortion were like, you're not thinking, you're being so selfish to the other crowd. You're not thinking of, you're just thinking of yourself. It's different. I'm like, okay, is it? Like, is it? It's still your body. Like, don't you get to make a choice? Like today I found so just I did a memory. I was on the playground in 2020 and I was just kind of like, if somebody pushing you off the playground, right? Like who gets to decide in your playground, right? That you can't create here in the world. Like who, like when did God come in and say, sorry, nobody gets to create the way they want to create anymore, right? You
Yeah.
know, so there was that aspect. And then the other one was when the other flip side of the coin, when it was like my body, my choice. And then it was um, like love one another and take care of one another, right? And be in a community and just
Mhm.
just take care of each other.
Yes.
And then the other people are like, well, we are taking care of each other by saying we're not going to hang out with community. We're not going to do anything we're saying, right? And it's like, but you're each saying the same thing. You're just
And
doing it differently. Can't you just see that? Like,
I know.
like because eventually we have to get to the point that we're none of these things,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think what's happening is, like I say, that the the pyramidal structure of how I've been conditioned to think the world works over my lifetime is collapsing, and the top is becoming the middle, and the middle becomes ourselves. And we're recognizing that each of us is the center of our own experience.
Yes.
And so, as we just all shared four different completely experiences from the same narrative, right?
Yeah.
There's 8 billion probably on the planet.
Yeah. You know what I find interesting about all four of our experiences? And they were all very different.
Mm.
Every one of us did something for community. You were hugging,
Mm.
you were with your congregation and oh my gosh, listening to that. You were serving with your oh, by the way, I was redoing Silva at the same time. I did Silva the first time when I was 20.
There you go.
Was awesome to go back through it through Mind Valley. Anyway, so you were serving that way and shopping. Oh my goddess. I still do all of my mother's shopping. Her caregivers give me the list and I call the shopper. I go online and we started doing that during our cocoons. It's been wonderful. And I was doing the meditations and I had opened a membership at that point too, a
Right.
woman's membership. So even though we each did our own experiences totally, there was the connection to community and to service. I find that very heart
Heartfelt.
opening, very heartfelt, very heartfelt.
Yes.
That it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, or what your circumstance is, there's a way to connect.
Yeah.
There's
And
always a way to connect.
actually, and one of those things that I've looked at now that I like retreated in a sense to the forest was that if I truly honestly believe that there is one source, one God, one creator, and we're all expressions of it. And the forest has been helping me with it, and that everything just grows and everything has a time and everything's perfect. Like everything is perfectly perfect. Then I can be the lighthouse now versus the search and rescue team. So I've had to look at myself and say, are some of those community things that I've done because they've made me feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or are some of those things that I've done because I've really felt like I'm helping someone else, right? And that one I had to, that took me a while because if I was really honest with myself, there were some of that was, well, I feel better about me as a human being if I'm saying, I'm doing this to help. I'm doing this to help, right? Instead of just going, you know what, it is happening fine. Everyone is having their own experience the way they need to have their own experience. What do I honestly feel guided to do in this moment? Maybe it's just nothing. And am I going to be okay with that? And a lot of stuff came up for me on that because, well, that's not how he's raised. You're supposed to always take care of the other person, And so it's like a cleaning of, in the chrysalis, like you say, beloved, it's like the cleaning of the mind. And I think some people that didn't go in the chrysalis and were so-called, let's say, fighting against the restrictions have then retreated now saying, oh my gosh, the world's going to end. So they're retreating back into the chrysalis now. So it's very much a, like, what was that Dr. Doolittle thing? The push me, pull you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that story.
Is that still able to be shared in school?
I don't know. I have the list, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead. Share what did they remove?
Oh my gosh. Let's see some of the books. Let's see if we can. Well, some of them. Okay, they removed Toni Morrison's books, Beloved, Song of Solomon, Sulat. I'm trying to think of things that. Oh, Hemingway's gone.
Really?
For whom the bell tolls, our time, the sun also rises.
Because he was a womanizer, a drunk. No, like
where are the old ones? I'm looking for Forrest Gump. Sorry,
Forrest Gump is gone.
Yep.
Huh.
These are a whole bunch of films. Come on, I know. Okay, some of the classics, the literary things, Handmaid's Tale. They removed the Handmaid's Tale.
Wow, Margaret.
I know, and look what's happening now.
Yeah.
Catch-22 is gone. Brave New World is gone. On the Road, Jack Kerouac is gone. Wow. Norman Mailer's things are gone. Ayn Rand is gone. Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt Vonnegut's gone. Anna Karenina is gone. The Color Purple. The Once and Future King. And here's for young kids. Let me see, because this is really crazy. Okay, that was high school. So let's see.
Who gets to decide?
Do we all know? I know these. It's mostly from parents. I mean, just nuts. Mexican White Boy is gone. Girl Made of Stars is gone. What Girls Are Made of is gone. Um, American Street.
Guess we don't have any girls anymore right now.
No. History Is All You Left Me. Beautiful Creatures, Beautiful Chaos, Beautiful Darkness, and Beautiful Redemption. All of those are gone. Um, Life is Funny is gone.
So this is throughout Florida. Florida's education system has removed all this.
Yes. Yep. And more and more.
Wow.
I mean, just so many of them. I mean,
Very-
some of them I'm okay with. I mean, I'm not okay with them censoring things,
Right.
you know. But oh my goodness, just crazy. Now those are the older kids. The little kids are just, if you don't, my thing is live and let live. If you don't want your kids to read something, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But you
Where are
know,
you
taking them, I must tell you, my mother is a darling, and she's 99, and she was Ivy League schooled, educated at Brown. And she got sick and had to come home for a semester, and she went to FSU, which was then Florida State College for Women.
Okay.
She was editor of the Flambeau. She was a journalist before she went to college and continued to be a journalist all the way through. And at that point, they were removing the Edgar Rice Burroughs books from the school system. Now, Edgar Rice Burroughs books are the Tarzan books.
Oh,
Okay.
Because Jane and Tarzan weren't married, so where did boy come from? My mother, and I went to Florida State. My mother wrote all of these anti-censorship articles and was nearly kicked out of school for it. So I was reared on being very careful with censorship. I mean, being very, very careful. And that's not just censorship of books and movies, it's censorship of ideas, which comes back to our experiences.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a type of censorship?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
That's
yes. In a broad sense.
The movie got termed X-rated, and we all had to stay home until our parents let us out. That was the way I like it's like, you know, it just was we. Wow.
I mean, my thing is, can't we just all be friends? Can't we just all be nice?
Well, I honestly think we people like that's the heart is people want that, right? Individually.
Yes.
I had that
yes.
discussion with one of the couple little men in uniform, and I said, you know, if you just left people to be instead of trying to put them in a box when they're born, right? And to say you need to be raised this way, you need to do this, because everybody that didn't like, I met so many men that are what do you call them now? They're good with their hands. No, yeah, they're in the trades, you know, but
Carpenters,
carpenters, fishermen. Okay.
Yeah.
And outdoorsies that when I was in Toronto and in the business side, I would think, well, I know what I thought. I didn't think. I thought, you know, oh, lower than, not educated enough, not, you know, whatever. And
Yeah.
now, as I've come to be amongst them and listen to them and hear them, it's like they felt at a very young age that school didn't make sense.
Mhm.
It's just like they did not want to be there. They didn't get the concept of I'm supposed to sit there and listen and memorize. Let me get outside. Let me build. Let me create. Let me do.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, you know what? They were way more aware than I was. Because
Mhm.
I was like, sure, I can. Oh, I got the answer. I get the gold star. Yahoo! You know.
And they're less brainwashed because they didn't go through that until they got a university degree or postgraduate degree. there's more and more of this. This is the correct thinking. They have a freer way of thinking.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to one of the other interviews I did with Dr. Netta. And one of the things she said to me, I guess before we were actually talking, she said, Jacqueline, she goes, there's a lot of doctors that are speaking out against this particular vaccine, the mRNA. She goes, what they haven't come to terms with yet is that probably all the vaccines were made to create illness within ourselves and to create autoimmune disorders. And she said, we were all type A personalities going to school. She goes, I was type A. You tell me this, I do this, I do this, I do that. We never asked questions. We just wanted the marks. That's what doctors do. Want the marks, want the grades, get in, do the thing. We weren't a journalist like your mom, we weren't, they were like, want to get in, want to get practicing. And she goes, unless the doctor had personal experiences with their own patients that got them to think a little differently than what they were taught. She goes, they've just never thought anything different than what they were schooled to do.
Or with their family members, an immediate family member, or their own health. And then they stop in their tracks and re-examine things and go through the dark night of the soul with that deconstruction and reconstruction.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like you've had a few that have come to you on that topic. And of course, you can't tell us who because it's all confidential.
No, actually, nobody has come to me on that. Nobody has come. But there are other challenges in other areas of society where I have heard things about ethics. This isn't the only thing where ethics comes up, but no doctor has ever come to me about this.
Okay. So I think
that's very, very difficult listening.
So in this heartfelt community, hearts on, right?
Yeah.
That's your trigger. You're supposed to go hearts on, hearts on.
Hearts
okay.
on.
Only Beloved's phone does it. We can make the heart sign. We're gonna continue to step out and be who we are and watch more hearts open and watch over the next day, week, years, even no matter what happens in the election, beloved. But it doesn't matter what happens,
it
because
really doesn't.
It doesn't even necessarily mean anything. Because it just continues.
That's it.
Constructing what appears to be the collective reality. Is it real? Is it not? We're deconstructing it because we're in our own.
Mm-hmm. It's needed to be deconstructed.
Yeah.
So that it can be reconstructed.
And what comes
or so it can, come for it had to come apart.
Yeah.
But it's like
it hasn't completely
gracefully.
There's more coming apart to happen yet.
Oh, yes, I know. My thing is, I'm the ease and grace girl, right? So couldn't we just deconstruct with ease and grace? And then couldn't we just gently bring forth, right?
Well,
we'll see. We'll see. I believe that the more we stay heart-centered and without fear, then the more energetic input we have. Yeah. And the more people who do that, that's how we create a reality. So that's all I can do on the US side and the world side and the global side.
Well, we're all one big heart. So
that's
it's even that concept of being in different countries and different places. We think that gets to get shattered, right? It's like the natives, they didn't used to have people like Lemuria, Atlantis, you name it, the rest of the things that have gone on in time. So
Yeah.
I look forward to all the things people are going to discover,
Me too.
including myself,
Me too.
right? Get to know me even deeper.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
anybody feeling they have some last words of heartfelt wisdom they want to share before we say a heartfelt goodbye to this call?
Joanne, I enjoy your wisdom. You've been on the quiet side. Does anything rise up in you?
You need some gems. Ah,
No pressure. I was just wondering because you've been on the quiet side, and I know you to be profound.
thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I have anything super duper to tell you other than like it's pretty much been summed up. I can go to gratitude. That's simple for me. At the end of a gathering, I like loved bringing gratitude. And what's that saying? Gratitude is the best state for receivership.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gratitude is the best date for
Best
Receiver.
state. Best
way.
state.
Best
Best
way
state.
for
Best
receivership.
STATE. What state am I in?
Best
Best state for receivership.
Best date. I was like the best date actually because I thought gratitude and receivership are going out together. Like,
There you go.
but,
Oh, state. No, sorry, state.
yes, date. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thank you
Thanks.
all for being here, and I wish you all a heartfelt rest of your day. And I look
Yes.
forward to seeing you again next week. If you're here, same time, same place, same heart channel.
Thank you all so much.
Plan on it. Next
Much love,
Thursday,
Dawn.
5 o'clock. Yeah,